Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of Diaries of an Indie Game Dev. And I think today's episode is going to be a little shorter than normal. I'm actually recording this on Sunday morning instead of pre-recording it like I usually do, because this has been a really busy week. Um, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and you'll see in the video, because I'm going to actually do some splicing, which I typically don't do in these episodes because it's usually just a vlog. But I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to be showing you guys and girls some of what I've been working on. So basically, at the start of October, I decided that I was going to jump on the bandwagon of learning how to do VFX in Unity. A lot of this was just related to we've been looking for someone to come in and do VFX for our game for the past 6 months, and we just haven't found anybody yet. We've had lots of applications, but we haven't had anybody who's been able to give us the quality of what we're wanting to see. We've gotten a lot of applications from people who are used to doing Minecraft style games or scroller games or things of that nature, and we haven't seen anybody that's got any actual mmorpg experience or experience doing VFX of the type that we want to do. So at the end of the day, we said, well, we'll keep looking, but in the meantime, we have a timeline that we have to adhere to, so we need to be able to meet our deadlines. So I was the one person on the team who A, had the time, B, had the availability, not just the time, but the availability. And also, I've kind of dabbled with it a little bit before when I was doing world building back in 2015, before Andrew came on board and took over the world building process for us. So a very similar situation to that, where in the very beginning of this project, I was working on building zones for the world. But then once we got someone who was more qualified to do that, that person took over and was able to take my initial drafts and etc. and do them much better than I ever could. So that's kind of the working theory right now, is at the very least I'm going to get us going in VFX to get us kind of started where we want to go, and then hopefully we will find a qualified candidate at some point. If not later this year, then hopefully early next year. But even if we don't, it's something where I actually have found myself enjoying it more than I thought I would. I always kind of knew that I had the inclination to do it, but I've been so focused on the writing and the skill design and all the other things that I work on the project that doing VFX was never something that kind of jumped up at the top of my list of priorities. And I knew I kind of enjoyed it, but as I've been able to sink my teeth into it the past few weeks, I've been enjoying it far more than I thought I would. So even if we don't find someone long term, I think I'll be more than happy continuing to do this on a long term basis. Of course, some of that is predicated on I have a lot of other roles on the team, and some things take precedence over VFX. For example, we have storylines that have to get into the game. Sometimes I have to jump back and work on storylines. Other times I have to jump around and do skill design. And then there's also the marketing of the project. So that's something that's very important. And of course, we have all of our just the overall management of the company. And at some point, we're going to be doing conventions in the conference circuit. And that means I've got to be out there at conferences doing presentations and speaking on panels, which means I can't be doing VFX. So, like I said, in a perfect world, we will find a candidate. But we do have pretty stringent requirements. So feel free to check out the careers page on stormhavenstudios.com/careers. And if you think you have the chops to do VFX for us or any of the other things that we're looking for jobs for, feel free to put in your application over on the website. So I want to walk you guys through a little bit of what I've been working on. So when I came into this, I wasn't completely virgin to the experience. There was some previous experience when like I said, in 2015 when I was doing some world building, so I wasn't coming to this completely brand new. But I have been jumping right in right away, and I'm working right now. I've been working on the life abilities for the life mastery. So the first three basic heals that players get when they jump in and play our closed alpha. And bear in mind that what I'm showing you is not by any by any shape or form completed. This is all early alpha. We're just getting working effects in right now, and then as I get better at effects, the effects will get better, and so on and so forth. But I basically start off with a very basic just learning the tutorials. Very first off was learning how to make sparks, and that's sounds really rudimentary, but you have to learn how to make sparks so that you can learn how to work with the particle system and learn what all the different functionalities do. And then from sparks, I then went on to make kind of like an explosion of sparks, and then from there you learn how to make little pillar effects and little area of effects on the ground with billboards. And as I progressed through these tutorials, I was able to get to the point where I felt comfortable, excuse me, going in and actually manipulating some of the pre-purchased packages that we have through Unity. So one of the really nice things of the Unity store is that you can obviously pre-purchase things that have already been created on the asset store. Now, you don't want to use those straight out of the box per se, because there are lots of people who buy these packages, and lots of people will be using them right out of the box. But one of the cool things is that you can go in, you can actually look at how a lot of these effects are set up, and then you can refer back to tutorials that you've watched or worked through and say, oh, so this is one of those things that we did back in tutorial number 7. And you'll get an idea of how someone else did it, and maybe they've added a couple of other effects to it, so that you can go look at those effects that they did and figure out what they did to tweak those, and then further tweak them for your liking, and etc. So what I've done at this point is I'm going in and I'm looking at things that I like and I think that can apply to the effects that we need for our certain abilities, and I'm pulling things out and then stripping components down from that and saying, if there's an effect that has, say, 9 different things going on it, I'll go strip each individual one of those components out and say, okay, so that could kind of work because I like the way the spirals are going, but I don't like the material that they're using for the actual circle. So I'm going to change the material, whether it's something that we have in another pack or it's something that I create from scratch in Photoshop. And once I get the material looking the way I want, then you can continue to modify the speed, the color, the opacity, whether or not it has, color over lifetime, or if it has volume over lifetime, or speed over lifetime, or size over lifetime. There's all these different settings that you can tweak. So being able to go in and strip out these components and then continue to edit them down from there allows you to, it's basically like, if you could imagine, if I were to create an effect completely from scratch, I would have to first create the material. You have to figure out what you want first, but then you have to do that. Then you have to create your material. Then you have to figure out shaders, maybe create your own shaders. And with the effects packs that you're able to purchase from the Unity store, you're able to cut a lot out of the way because people have already created the materials, they've already created the textures, they've already created the shaders in some cases, and as long as they're working with your version of Unity and etc., then you're good to go. Now, the tricky thing is a lot of these packages have custom scripts which don't always work with what you're going to be doing with your game. So that's stuff that's more complex that I'm still not even advanced enough to get into scripts yet. But at the very basic, you'll see what I've been able to do here is I started off with creating some basic heal spells, and then from there, I went and looked through all of our different packs and said, I think these can work for the alpha version of what we've got going, and then we can continue to refine these as we go over time. And you'll see for the basic, I'm trying to remember what it's called off the top of my head. I think it's called Healing Splash or something like that. Anyway, that's your basic instant heal, which is the at first level, level 1 mastery. You get that, and then the next one is the heal over time with a sequence called Breath of Life, and then the last one is the group heal, which is called Healing Wave. And so I've gone in and I've created actual application effects for each one of those, and there's also casting effects for each one of those, and there's a lot more that's going to be added to this, but this is the basis for where we're getting going right now in terms of having the first 3 abilities already ready to go. Now, beyond that, I've also been working on fire effects. So I actually have the first 3 effects from the Fire Mastery line ready to go as well. You've got a basic flame bolt, and then a dot, a flame lick, I think is what it's called, or embers. It's called embers, excuse me. And then after that is a fireball spell. All pretty classic We're not breaking the mold here with our spells. And I've got those effects kind of dialed in right now, so you can see the basic flame bolt, which kind of has some little trails of smoke, and then our Ember's spell, but then I really love the Fireball with the really smoky effects, and then you can actually see the impact. And when it hits, there's flickering flames that are left beyond the ground. So I'm not a professional by any means, but it is a work in progress, and it's something where I'm happy to say that it looks good, and that's the most important part. But it's also looking back at all the things we've been talking about in the Diary of an Indie Game Dev series, having the ability to do lots of different things in the project is very important when you're a small team, because you're working it's like shooting from the hip, and you have to be able to cover a lot of different ground, and that's something that can be tricky, um, and not everybody has the time, the inclination, or the ability even per se. Like I said, I'm doing rudimentary effects, but you know having somebody with 7 or 8 years of experience is what we would really like to have, because that's someone who can do things you know, with the snap of a finger, and they can make things look far better than I'm going to be able to make them look at this stage. And of course, like anything else, given enough time, I'll be able to make things look much better than they are now. But it is, one of those things where, just like when I first got started writing, 10 years ago, it took a long time to write things, and I wasn't very good at it, and sentence structure and flow and everything else. But after doing this for a decade, I can look at a project now from 30 or 40 different angles and know exactly from the beginning where I'm going to get, my inspiration from, and what I'm going to be doing, and what needs to get me to the finish line. And I can estimate those things within a good 10% margin of error. And that's just because of experience and being able to do it better, after having done it over and over and over for the years to come. So that's a quick update for this Diary of an Indie Game Dev. Again, this is a quick episode this week. I didn't want to do a long one because we've got lots of irons in the fire. We've got our first big reveal of the next vertical slice that we're working on for the big Q1 of 2020 reveal, but we're revealing the first iteration of that to our closed alpha members this upcoming Wednesday, which is what is the date on that? 23rd of October 2019. So yeah, lots of things going on right now. So I'm doing a quickie episode this morning to get this out the door. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for your support on Patreon, and of course everywhere else. Don't forget we're still playing World of Warcraft Classic Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday nights. Getting up there. The core of the guild is mid to late 30s to mid 40s, and then we have a few people that are in their early 50s. So we're getting to the point where we're hoping that maybe by December, January, we're going to start recruiting for raids. We might wait till January so we get past the holidays and see who drops off after the holidays, if people still continue with it after Christmas. And then if so, we'll be recruiting for raids after that, but we're not in a rush. We're taking our time. I'm having a blast because I've never played it before, so for me it's like a new game, and I'm enjoying it. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for your support. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you in the next episode. Cheers.